Let's welcome him.
So, had such a beautiful bouquet of flowers, and I hope everybody feels empowered through coming this afternoon. I feel very empowered through each couple, each family's contribution, and it's not an easy world to live in. It's not an easy society, in my experience, to live in. And I hope that we can really feel empowered by this beautiful encounter this afternoon in creating this bouquet. So Iftikhar, Dr. Ayaz has already basically said everything that needs to be said. So I won't take much of your time. Just to say that UPF, as was mentioned, has this status, NGO status at the UN, along with our sister organisation, Women's Federation. So we have a lot of events at the top end, but equally we work at street level. We work at street level. So we try to work at all levels of society. And the next slide. These are three of the key areas we focus on: peace and reconciliation, interfaith activities, as we are here today, but especially the value of the family in establishing a world of peace. And it's rather like the, you think of the cells of your body, the nucleus in each cell of your body is the heartbeat, determining so many things that happen out in the rest of the cell. So we would say in UPF that the family is like that. That what goes on in the family is going to affect and impact everything that goes on in the rest of society, for good and for ill. So the next slide. Then we, as some of you will know, we bring together families, as we are doing today, to really emphasize the central importance of the family. People of all different faiths. This was just in a church in 2012. The next slide is in a more public place. But here we have in the front row the Queen's representatives in the West Midlands and the former Lord Mayor. But just a couple of rows back we have people who are just clinging on to their status here in the UK as asylum seekers and refugees. So again, from top to bottom, we try to develop that kind of heart and to treat people, of course, politicians and religious leaders and so on, with the right protocol, but basically to try and treat everybody with the same heart, as I mentioned before, the heart that this could be my grandma, this could be my father, this could be my sister, this could be my child, regardless of our social status, economic status, religious affiliation, and so on. But that should be our first impulse, and that's something that we should learn in the family, and our children hopefully can take that out into school, into society, into the wider world with them. So the next slide. Then in the family, as you know, our children, especially when they're very small in those formative years, just absorb so many things. I can see this with our granddaughter. You say something and she'll just repeat it. They take on so many things in those early formative years. I think it's very widely recognized that those first half dozen years are going to determine so many things which will pan out in the person's life. So through the family, we transmit language, culture, ethics, and core values, and hopefully those core values and principles are reinforced out there in society. But we know that often they're not. They're not reinforced. Often our children get very mixed messages, whether it's on social media or in school, in different circumstances. But the next slide will just show you, in terms of our particular situation, then my eldest daughter, Teresa, Chloe's mum, she's managed to find a childminder who shares very similar values, such that when I've been dropping her off every morning this week, I feel completely, absolute trust in this person. That she will give the love, the same love she will treat Chloe in this case. I can see that she treats her as her own children who are there as part of that family. And it's the most amazing thing to be able to trust, absolutely trust another person. Yeah. And the first place that should happen is in the man, woman, husband, wife relationship. If you can absolutely trust your husband, your wife, your partner, that's the most to be able to absolutely trust somebody. So what our young people in Wait are emphasizing is waiting for that time, finding that person that you can build complete trust in that person. It's the most precious commodity, to be able to completely trust another person. The next slide. Then a good experience in the family is a foundation of good character, but then when children don't experience love in the home, then they may well seek fulfillment elsewhere, in a gang, or somewhere else where they can't find that love. And that can lead to antisocial, self-destructive behavior. So problems equally then. On the flip side, problems in the family are at the root of many of our social ills. So the next slide will show you an incredible person in Birmingham. He's Reverend Carver Anderson. And here he's just giving a blessing to my daughter and son-in-law's relationship. But he literally risks his life every day to go into the gangs on the streets of Birmingham, in Aston, Nechells, and so on, to try and help young people come out of the gangs where they found something that they couldn't find in their home or elsewhere in society. They found it in the gang, but it's resulting in self-destructive behavior. So he literally puts his life on the line. Incredible person to go and try and bring young people out of the gangs. And another thing that Robin and Margaret have developed here in London through their contacts in Parliament is to take young people who are doing great things into Parliament, and they can receive a special award. We also have the UN Day for Youth, and on that occasion they can take young people into Parliament. They can receive a special award from their Member of Parliament that they can put on their CV. So Carver Anderson managed to bring one young guy, Nathan, out of one of the gangs, and he became a Christian. He married, and his marrying and having children actually saved his life. Of course, Carver was instrumental in that, but he said that it's having a family that's actually saved his life, and having children. So a couple of years ago, through Robin and Margaret, we brought him into Parliament, and he received an award, and now he can use that to further his work to help other young people come out of the gangs. You may have heard that from great sports people, great footballers who earn multi-million amounts of money every year, and then they have a child, and they realise that actually that's more important. You often hear famous footballers say that's more important to them, David Beckham or whoever, than anything else. This aspect. The next slide will show you that our faith traditions, all our faith traditions, regard the family, marriage, parenthood as sacred, not just a social institution. Understandably, our political leaders, they look at marriage from a more social and economic perspective because they have to deal with money and numbers and so on. But our faith traditions have something to say, and actually should say more.
Yes.
They should say more. Our religious leaders, even ourselves, we should be saying more collectively, even to people and our elected officials, that the family is something sacred, not just a social institution. It's something very holy, very sacred, and we have to hang on to that and keep that. So the next slide. This is just one particular family in Birmingham. We do the same thing on a smaller scale in Birmingham. This is recognizing a 3-generational family. They all live in this massive house, and when you go into the house, you see children running around. You don't know which particular family they've come from. You've got the patriarch and the matriarch, this amazing Sikh couple holding everything together, bringing not just the parental but the grandparents' love. So we would say that love is something that we should aspire to develop in our personal life, as a father, as a mother. You mentioned this term, true parent. We should try to develop this true parental heart. And then as a couple, try to embody that and represent that and give that to our children, not just in the family, but we would say also it should be in a school, even in government. Even in government, we should have the feeling that our leaders have the heart that regardless of their political persuasion, Conservative, Liberal, Democrat, Labour, their heart is concerned for all the people equally, beyond the political divide. Or a teacher in school, you probably know the term in loco parentis. As a teacher, you are in loco parentis. You're in the place of the parents. So when you drop your children off at school, the teacher is in the place of the parents. And we believe that should literally be the case, that a teacher in a school should be concerned for all the children in the class. They should have that in their mind, not just the high flyers, but all the children should be treated equally. So that should be in schools, in the CEO of a company, our political leaders, religious leaders should have this parental heart. And that should be our goal in life. Beyond all of our differences, to develop a true parental heart, and then to embody that in the couple, bring that into the family, and then it should be infused into society. So this particular family, the next slide will show you, one of the things that's happening more and more is that young people are marrying across the racial divide, the religious divide, and when that happens, it can be problematic. I don't know if you've encountered that yourself, but in this case, that particular couple and that family you just saw on the previous slide, then one of the sons, he went to Prague to study dentistry, and he fell in love as a young Sikh man with a beautiful Irish Catholic colleague. And it was a problem. It was a problem for the family in terms of the Sikh community and also her Catholic community. There were death threats towards the family from extremists who said, this is not possible. You can't marry outside of your particular faith tradition. So the couple called Patricia and myself, because they'd seen the work that we do in UPF. The wife had been to my wife's peace meeting for many years, and they said, could you come and speak at the wedding in order to help the Sikh community, especially the conservative, more fundamentalists, understand about Catholicism, and to help the Irish community understand about Sikhism. What would you say in that situation? It's a big responsibility, actually. So I was racking my brains. I was flown from Birmingham to Dublin for the wedding, and I had to think and pray deeply. What do I say in this particular situation that can help both sides understand each other and find common ground? And the word that came to me as I was flying Ryanair at 36,000 feet or however high was hospitality. Because my wife and I, and I'm sure many of you, have experienced incredible hospitality from Sikh families in the Gurdwara, in their homes and so on, amazing hospitality. But equally myself, in travelling in Ireland, especially when I was a student, incredible hospitality from Irish people who never knew me. So when I spoke in the Gurdwara that they're married, I spoke about hospitality. And we have to find these, but in praying and trying to find, I was trying to think, how can I say something that's going to embrace both sides of the divide? Again, this kind of parental heart. What is it? What can I bring from the divide that can help these two communities to understand each other and provide the platform for this couple's future? The next slide is inside the Gurdwara, I think. The flip side, as we mentioned before, sexual promiscuity, infidelity, pornography, and so on, ultimately is a major factor in leading to broken relationships and family breakdown. Breakdown undermines social stability, citizenship, educational development, contributes to crime, youth, all the things that we're very familiar with. Even suicide, you're probably familiar with a lot of the things that are going on, bullying, cyberbullying, all of this thing. So the next slide then, in order to tackle that, to deal with the root cause of the problem, first of all, we need each other. We have to really come together and speak with a common voice, as I mentioned earlier, but also to take a new look at the family and how it can be empowered to deal with these increasing freedoms and greater responsibility that come from social media and so on, and the influences of the 21st century world. But to be successful, we need everybody to be involved, and particularly media. It's difficult to really impact on the world without media. But a lot of the media is very, thrives on controversy, thrives on adversarial relationships, even foments and stimulates and multiplies adversarial situations in order to sell newspapers and so on. So myself, when presenting these ideas, I say that in coming together today, in standing for the more traditional aspect of family values, it doesn't mean we're standing against something else. But definitely we need to stand for the traditional, I would say, God-centered, sacred holiness of the family in our society. So I hope in coming here today that you'll feel empowered in your own niche and the work that you're doing, amazing work in your particular circumstances, but also we'll find ways to encourage and empower one another in goodness, in holiness, and certainly I've got a lot from coming here today. It was worth driving 2.5 hours down the M40. So thank you all for your contributions. I hope that by being here today, it will give you more power to your elbow, as we say, and I really appreciate all of your effort to come together today on this Saturday afternoon. Thank you.